It's good to review. Yeah. Welcome. Thank you everyone for having me. Thank you, Neely, for letting me speak to you all. It's my first time actually in Eretz Chemda, but I've heard a lot about it. I think living the whole process, that's like one of the, yeah. So it's, I've gone through Smicha, and at some point I've had to use that. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Yoni Denitz. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles. Third generation Los Angelino. I think I wanted to be a fourth to California. So definitely was in America for a while. I went to school called, everyone knows, Hillel, Sholheve, Eula. Anyone knows Eula? Yeah. So, what's that? Anybody here went to those schools?
No.
No one? Any Fisher Hafters or Hanks or nobody? Yeah. So yeah, that's where I went to high school, and then afterwards I went to the University of Michigan. Anyone went to the University of Michigan? Texas A&M?
Yeah, I did it for a year. University of Michigan, I know a few people that went.
Cool. Awesome. So I was in the University of Michigan, where I majored in business and thought I'd go kind of in that route and finance and so forth. And that was when like the whole green movement was starting up. So I had this vision of like being like the environmental attorney. My grandparents lived in Malibu, so my twin brother, we didn't really go to camp. We went to camp, like Camp Olim. I don't know, it was Camp Olim. But we went to we were like surfing and skimboarding and doing all that, boogie boarding. So I thought, okay, great. If I don't have to wear shoes, if I can get paid like 6 figures, let's do that, right? So here I was, to be an environmental attorney. And but yeah, at some point along the way, I thought maybe I'd go into business or finance, and really was just kind of open to anything. And but I knew I wanted to be in Israel. So in the summers, what I was doing was my parents are BaBayit Tshuva, and they said to me, listen, we don't want you going to do that. One of the few people where they said, you're not going to yeshiva. They said, don't go to yeshiva after high school, but go in the summers. So you'll be in Michigan in the summer, you can go to Israel. So what I was doing was I was coming to Israel for about 4 months every single summer, and that's where I started to really develop this passion for living in Israel. Last time I'll be in April, then May, June, July, August I'd be in Israel. So a third of my year I'd be living here. So after I graduated, I went back to LA for about a year, was working in finance for about a year, and then at some point I had a midlife crisis. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. But I had this, I was driving to downtown LA, and I was working with my dad, which is great. He actually, the most production he ever had in that year, he said, that's what he claimed. Could just be a speaking nice, who knows. And I just thought to myself, nothing against my dad, but I thought, am I going to do this for the next 30 years of my life, just like drive from Pico Robertson to downtown LA, and how people who are like wealthy get wealthier, or richer get richer, and then come back and kind of like go to Minion and maybe have more than just my shorts and my sandals on, right? So, and I said to myself, I wanted to live in Israel, I wanted to at least explore that. And I had a rabbi that told me, he said, you only start in Israel because it's easier to start here and then move back than it is to live there, like live in the States and move here, right? So I thought, okay, that resonates with me. Like, if I'm living in LA, it might be hard to then make Aliyah. But if I start in Israel and it goes, it goes. And if it doesn't go, okay, so I can always go back to America. I speak English, I have my degree, I'll be fine. And that was 12, 13 years ago. So married with 3 kids, Baruch Hashem. I teach in seminaries. I work as, anyone knows Jeff Seidel? Little ball guy helps you with your Shabbat meals. So I work for the Jeff Seidel Student Center in Tel Aviv University. So if anybody here was ever in TAU or in Herzliya, ITC. So I run the Student Center over there in Tel Aviv University. And teach at different places, and also was the director of a yeshiva, and stay busy, do some life coaching and whatnot. So that's more about who I am. And let's discuss some Torah tonight. Sounds good? Yeah. By the way, where's everyone from? Just call it out. New York, Toronto, Houston, England, not New York. Yeah. Where are you guys from? You said where?
Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas, Liverpool. Ah, they lost to Brighton last week. Yeah, good match. It was like 3-0. Or Brighton. I never even heard of Brighton, right? It was something to Liverpool. Great. Where else? New Jersey? Any New Jerseys?
Germany.
Where? Germany. Cool. Where? Berlin?
Hamburg.
Wow, Hamburg. Do you know my neighbors from Germany? Wade's, but they were there 30 years ago. Dr. Wade. Asher Wade. Yeah. Mrs. Wade, what's her name? Yeah. Actually, a friend named, he's in my speaker program, Noam. He's a rabbi in, you know Noam? Rabbi Noam? He's a rabbi in Berlin. Mm-hmm. He's an average rabbi in Berlin. Yeah. LA boy went to Berlin to be an average rabbi. But apparently he's doing really well. Yeah. Actually, I was in Poland last week. So, yeah. Okay, so what I wanted to speak about, nice to meet you everyone, to speak about tonight was kind of the idea of defining what we're going to call the essence of Judaism, okay? Really focusing more on what they say is who is the Mensch, who am I, right? Kind of the makeup of really of who we are, okay? Of what we say is the Adam, the Mensch. Now, it's something that it seems to be, on just like at face value, kind of superficial. Hey, we're talking about the essence of Judaism or who I am or the makeup of who I am. But if we start to get into it, and even with some different, we'll see difference in Svarim here about describing the essence of really who we are, and kind of doing chazar, if you will, reviewing really why I'm here and what the purpose of my life is. So then what it can really do is it can open our mind to a whole new world and really a whole new perspective of really my purpose in my life, right? The direction I want to take in life, who I am as a person, how I define myself, and where I'm headed. Let's begin. There's a story, I'll tell you two stories. First story was like this. There are two people who were someone said they're from, someone here said from Toronto, Montreal. Who was that?
Toronto.
Toronto. So, I think I did tell you the story actually about leadership, yeah. Oh, you were there too, exactly. So, we're doing Chazara for the story. So, there are two people on the ice, yeah? It's a good way to start the story. Two people on the ice. And you know the punchline. And they're skating, right? Ice freezes over. I have no idea what that means. I'm from LA. All I know is beach and like salty and like seaweed gets in your face. I have no idea what it means to have a lake freeze over. Lake freezes over. Two people, they're ice skating, and one of the people falls into the water. The other person with them sees this happen, runs to a branch, rips off a branch off a tree, and proceeds to smash through the ice with this branch. Okay? Pulls this person out of the ice. Everything was fine. Paramedics show up. And paramedics are like bewildered. And they're looking at the scene, and they're thinking to themselves, how did this happen? I haven't told you. How is it possible that this scrawny little kid who was like 90 pounds was able to pull out this adult who was probably 200 pounds out of the ice? More than that, how was he even able to rip off a branch off the tree and smash through the ice? How was he able to do that? The paramedics were just like bewildered, right? We've heard stories about that the mom where there's, a puppy, where there's the baby in the car and they're lifting up the car and, right? There's stories like that, right? And the paramedic turns to his friend or whoever he was speaking to and said the reason why he was able to rip a branch off the tree, break through the ice and pull someone out who was 2 times his weight, his body weight, was because no one was there to, finish it, please.
Tell him he could.
Nice. No one was there to tell him he can't. No one was there to tell him he can't. There was no voice in his head of saying, I can't, someone else can do it, someone else will step it up. It was only him. So because it was only him, and there was no other choice, therefore he was able to do that. There's actually, it's in halacha, it's brought down that whenever the Jewish people went to war, to a milchama, so there's a certain halacha that they were supposed to always leave like an escape for their enemy, right? Which is counterintuitive. You think like, okay, enclose the enemy and then you can just kill the enemy. But I think it's a halacha that's brought down when it comes to milchama. They have to leave. The enemy has to feel like it can escape. Why? I think it's even brought down in the Art of War. Remember the Art of War, Ezra?
Sun Tzu.
Yeah, Sun Tzu, right? And the reason why is because if the enemy feels like they have no other choice but to fight and there's no escape, right? Then they'll fight to the death. And it's worse for you. It's worse for you if you're attacking someone that for the enemy to feel like they have no other choice but to fight, right? So in this story, here's a person where there was they say burning your bridges. There was no one else there. There was no voice inside. There was no Yitzhar Hara saying anything negative about what he can accomplish in that moment. First story, second story. Also, I think I told you this also. So ladies, it's the Chazar. My father-in-law was in what grade? He's smarter than me.
4 or 5.
Right, but we changed it to 5th grade, remember that, yeah? So he's in 5th grade. He's smarter than a 5th grader. He's in 5th grade. And the teacher says, we're going to do it. I want to ask the classic question. She said, okay, here's the scenario. She says, there's 2 bags. One bag is a pound of feathers, and the other bag is a pound of nails. Now, whoever thinks the pound of feathers is heavier, go to the left. Whoever thinks the pound of that's what people think, right? If some people are confused, right? If a pound of nails are heavier, they go to the right. Okay, so two options. So everyone's going to the left, but to the right, those think it's a trick question. Are going to left, right? Remember, pound of feathers, pound of nails. So my father-in-law is standing in the middle, like a Mishnah, And the teacher said, Danny, why aren't you going to a certain side? And he turns to this teacher and he says, but Mrs. So-and-so, that was her name, Mrs. So-and-so. But Mrs. So-and-so, you said there's 2 bags. One's a pound of feathers and one's a pound of nails. So then really, it's the same. So why would I go left or go to the right? It's the same. And the story goes that he was the only person in his entire class of like 35 kids that stayed put in the middle. Right? You had, let's do the math now, 34. So then you have how many? 16, 17, right? How many is that? Half and half? What's half 34, everybody? 16? What? No, 17 and a half, right? 17. So you had half, right? You had half the class split. And here's one kid standing in the middle. And my father-in-law tells the story often. And he said that it was a moment in time where he realized that it's not even about numbers. Who cares what everyone else is doing? Who cares who's going to the right, who's going to the left? And he said that, and he wasn't observant at the time. His mother was actually in Auschwitz and was very anti being observant. And she felt like a lot of survivors that the way to survive was not to be Jewish, not to be observant, right? And so he remembered when he later went to go to yeshiva. So he said that was something that enabled him to really take that leap. To realize that just because so many people are saying one thing and he believes in something else, to have the resolve and to believe in something, even if you're the only one that has that confidence, that's okay. Because when you know when something's right, when you see emes, when you experience what's emet, right? When you experience that, when you experience truth, then all you gotta do is just run with it, right? So 2 stories. Now, why am I telling you that? Because now let's go back a little bit into the creation of time, okay? Hashem decides for himself, right? According to the Shloah HaKodesh, by the way, according to the Shloah, the Shem L'Chut Avrit, it's a beautiful sefer, on Kabbalah, Hashkafa. So he actually says that Hashem had thoughts to create a world, which actually can be a way of being miyashiv, of reconciling the age of the universe according to those, let's say, being 4.5, I think it's billion years old, or is it million? Billion? And 5.7, we're holding an 8.3. Because the Shloah says that Hashem actually had a thought to create a physical world. So, I asked my rabbi once when I was a chief, I said, why did God create a world? If you're God, just remain God. If you're God, think about it, right? I'll be Kabbalah. If you're God, just stay God. Just stay who you are. You're God. Why create? Why do something more? Okay, so you'll say Olim chesed, abundant, the ultimate chesed, very nice, right? But still, you're creating an experiment that might not go. You're creating an experiment. I think you were right. You're creating an experiment that you must listen to stories, so it's okay. The ladies go to class with me. So you're creating an experiment that really might not be something that is worthwhile, right? We actually say that it's better that we weren't created. It'd be better had a person not been created. But now that we are created, so I exist, therefore I am, right? I exist, and therefore now I have to deal with that existence and better make the most of it, right? The Hebrew was yefashmish b'masa, to think about your actions. But let's back up. So Hashem's actually thinking, do I not? Apparently, according to the Medrash, there was a conversation between Hashem and the Malachim. The Malachim said, you're making a mistake. If you create with free will and the hero, you know something's going to go wrong. Right? Now, obviously, this wasn't a real conversation, but right, metaphorically speaking. And Hashem says, but you know what? I have to do that. We have to take this leap and allow there to be this experiment of a physical world of Olam Hazeh, of what we call Adam. Chava, of course, with Adam, but the idea of creating a human, creating an Adam. What was that? Hashem said, I'm going to do something that has never been done before, was the most amazing thing that could ever been done in spiritual realm, if you think about it or analyze that, which is the idea of taking a piece of divinity, a piece of infinity, a piece of himself, and putting that into a physical being. Creating Adam, Tov Ma'od, creating Adam, right? The pinnacle, the epicenter of physicality. And what Hashem did was he took a piece of himself, Aleph, and put it into what's done? Blood, right? I'm starting, come on, everyone's Hebrew, yeah? Let's get involved, yeah? Right? You put it to down. Now, Aleph, every single letter in the alphabet is actually a breakdown of other letters. So an Aleph really is a Yod, a Vav, and a Yod. Not like the way that we all grew up, like in Jewish day school writing it, but block, right? In Tel Aviv University, if I write a class and I write in Hebrew on the board, I have to write in block. Is that amazing? Because if I write like Rashi, not like Rashi, if I just write like an aleph, like line and C, they're like, what's that, right? So, but it's great for the class. So it's, an aleph is really a yud and a vav and a yud. Now, based on gematria, so what is that? A yud is 10, vav is 6, yud is 10. So if you have a yud, a vav, and a yud, you have, how much? You have 26. The gematria of God's name of yud, k, vav, k, yud, hey, and a vav, and a hey, added up is, yeah? Take a wild guess, everybody? 26. So Hashem took a piece of himself, a piece of yud, k, vav, k, not Elohim. Elohim is din, yud, k, vav, k is chesed. Right? Yud, k, vav, k is the idea of the Shekhinah, which has a matter of the Kaisel, right? The Shekhinah being involved, taking a part of the physical world. And Hashem took a piece of himself, of the Shekhinah, of Yud, K, Vav, K, and put it into Dam. And put it into what we call Basar Dam. And now you have something where it's the ultimate lab rat you've ever been experienced. Ha 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 ha, you're all rats. Yeah. And that's you, and that's us, that's me. Right? That's everyone here that's alive. So it became so significant because at a place called Har Sinai where we receive the Torah, let's even back up for a minute. Hashem created an Adam. He took a piece of himself, which is something that's divine, something that's infinite, something that there's no word for I can't. There's no word for, right, everyone else is doing this, everyone else is going right, everyone else is going left, right? But Hashem took a piece of himself and put that into all of us. Which means, and the significance of that is that we're all walking around with a piece of Hashem inside of us. Wild thought, right? We say in Shri Yatzar, it's mafli la'asot, that Hashem created us, and it's a pella. Mafli means it's a wonder, it's a pella. What's a pella? So they say that it's a pella, it's a wonder that you have something physical and spiritual coexisting. A hybrid of neshama and guf, right? Guf and neshama. The hybrid of the two, where Hashem took a piece of himself, v'poch ba'apav nishmat chayim, and put it into Adam, and that they coexist. So that in the Shigatza we say mafli la, so it's unbelievable. And why do we say that bracha after going to the bathroom? So Ravolbi, who knows what show of hands who Ravolbi was? Ezra? Yeah? Neely? Yeah, anyone else? You for sure know who Ravolbi was. No? So he was a big mechanech educator, Nimmer Yeshiva and other yeshivas. Ravolbi says that the reason why you describe the relationship between body and soul, guf and neshama, after going to the bathroom, because he says it's musr. It's musr for yourself to realize that even something so base, even something that's so basic and something that seems so insignificant as just going to the bathroom, well, even there in that context you have guf and neshama. Isn't that beautiful? Mafli, so it's a pella that I'm so physical and I have to go to the bathroom, and yet I have a neshama, right? So that's pella. So Hashem says that now what you're going to become is the epicenter of everything that is spiritual. You're going to have the koach now because you're walking around with a piece of me inside of you. You're going to now have the koach to do things that if you just be a behema, if you just be a tzipur, a bird, a cow, right? Whatever it be, a fish, a dagim in the yam, whatever it be, right? You wouldn't have the koach to do, to affect the spiritual worlds. You wouldn't have the koach, you wouldn't have the power to do what I can do. Says the Tomer Devorah, by show of hands, what the sefer is, it's a beautiful sefer. Tomer Devorah says that the reason why we're created is to be dome lekona, to be comparable, to be similar to the one that fashioned us, to the one that created us. And he says, Kizet kol ze'ikr kol adam. That's why we exist. So now we're given this koach, we're given this power to be able to do things and to be able to affect the spiritual world, to become the epicenter of all spirituality. There's a story about an Israeli who, I think I remember hearing this in yeshiva from one of my Rebbeim, this was his Talmud. Yeah? He's in India and looking for spirituality, getting more into Buddhism and so forth, which it was happening a lot, I think more so in the 60s and 70s, I'm not so sure anymore, but I think more in the 60s and 70s where, let's say you're growing up secular, right? A secular Jewish person exploring spirituality, why not? Right? So here he is, he's in India, he's waiting for his line to meet the Dalai Lama. There for a month, 2 months, 3 months passes, and he wants to have he wants to have a one-on-one meeting with the Dalai Lama. Comes to his turn. Who knows the story, by the way? He was a lone soldier, I believe. Or I don't know if he was a lone soldier, but he was a soldier. So he finally has this meeting with the Dalai Lama. And he's been practicing Buddhism. He read, what's that book by Akiva Tetz? What? Buddhist Jew, I think. He read what? Letters to a Buddhist Jew. He read that book. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. And he's studying more about Buddhism, right? And I think he even got into like the bush, the clothing, and so forth, and everything. And he's been involved and learning more and more. And now they have a meeting. And he's sitting down from the Dalai Lama, and he said, "I come from a Jewish background, but I decided to really delve into Buddhism because I'm looking for spirituality. Right? Where I was growing up as a secular Jew, so I didn't really see so much spirituality. So I'm looking more for spirituality." And the Dalai Lama said to him, it's a famous story, the Lama said to him, "Wait, you said that you're Jewish?" He said, "Yeah, I'm from Israel." "Well, what does that matter? I'm here. Share with me your wisdom, right? Share your chachma. I want to hear. Share your wisdom." And he says, "My friend, but you said you're Jewish. You're the start. You're the beginning. You guys are the epicenter. That's where everything began. So whatever you're looking for, it's not going to be here. It's going to be back in the religion of what you were born into. It's going to be in Judaism." He's like, but I came here to be with you. I want to become more Buddhist. You're telling me to go back to Israel and explore Judaism?" And the Dalai Lama was honest enough to say, "Yeah, because you're Jewish. And if you're Jewish, you have to go back to Israel, my friend, and learn more about Judaism because you guys are where it all began." Right? So to understand that Hashem took a piece of himself, a piece of the divine, and put it inside all of us, that's the chiddush of having a neshama in a guf, of a soul into a body. And living with that daily, even with something so mundane, maybe as even as going to the bathroom, well, that's a pella. That's a wonder. That's something that shouldn't even be. We call that lamayla min hateva, greater than something that's natural. If something's not natural, it is supernatural. Supernatural, right? Everyone at once, yeah. If it's not natural, it's supernatural, right? Where did we experience that? That was what Har Sinai was all about. What was the experience of Har Sinai? Hashem gets a Torah. Very nice, right? If not, Hashem take for us. There's going to be your downfall, right? We have to have a nation that's going to accept it and disseminate, right, and give over religiosity, right, and so forth, and be religious leaders. Har Sinai is given the lowest place possible, the lowest mountain. And if you turn around Sinai, it's Samech Yod Nun Yod, right? Picture in your mind right now, Sinai, Samech Yod Nun Yod. Get rid of the Yods, flip it. What do you get? Samech and Nun, flip it. What do you get, Yoni? Nes. Very good. You get this, right? Hashem said, I'm going to do something now to complete this whole story. Good, I took a piece of myself, divinity, infinity, and put it into Dam, Aleph and Dam, Yud, Vav, Yud, 26, Yud, K, Vav, K. But now that's not complete. Good, you're something that's greater than a behemoth, you're greater than inanimate objects, you're greater than just the animal kingdom. You are now the epicenter, the Dalai Lama story, right? But there's still something that's not yet complete. And that's going to be what we call, all right, so that's going to be, not yeshiva, yeah? That's going to be what's called Torah. It's going to be a connection, it's going to be a blueprint, it's going to be a map of being able how to get closer to Hashem, of how to achieve that closeness, and basically turn myself into what we say, Doma Lakono Matomer Torah. Har Sinai, that's a nes. That's the Malam Teva. Now, we take that for granted. We take it for granted that I have a neshama inside of me. We take it for granted that I'm walking around with something that's so unique and something that's divine inside of me. And we don't live that way. Unfortunately, we don't look at ourselves that way, right? I call it Jewish self-confidence, yeah? It should really be human self-confidence. 1 second, back up, everybody. The confidence, the Jewish self-confidence that a person can walk around with, knowing I have a piece of divinity inside of me, that I have a piece of Hashem inside of me, that my neshama. How do you say to, you know how to say it. How do you say to breathe in Hebrew? How do you say to breathe? Nisham, right? Nisham. Was that the worst person I should have chosen? No. I'm just kidding. You speak Hebrew? Yeah. Right? Nisham, to breathe. Oh man, I can't breathe. I remember I went to go see the new Avatar, right? And, with a big giant bag of popcorn and Bamba. Who wants Bamba? Yeah, I came to a movie theater to like M&M's and like popcorn. Not Bamba, right? And someone's like, oh, I was like, shh, quiet. I'm watching Avatar. I've seen the movie in 10 years. Be quiet, you know? So Nisham is to breathe, right? That's Nisham. Hashem literally breathed a piece of himself. Think about this for a minute. Imagine right now, I'm holding a balloon. It's going to be gross. Imagine right now, and not a cheapy like Israeli balloon, like a Costco balloon. I'm holding a Costco balloon in my hands, yeah? And I blow this up, this nice, massive balloon, right? All right. And I tie it up, A week later, I come up to this balloon. What am I going to see? So it'll be a little smaller, right? Not because we're redeem ourselves. So I'm going to come back, right? And I have this balloon. It's a little bit smaller, but I'm still going to have this amazing, nice, real, not fake rubber. This real nice balloon from Costco. Now think about it, everybody. What are you holding now if you pick up that balloon? What's inside of it? Maybe. It's you. Isn't that gross? It's your breath. It's you. It was you in that moment. It was you 10 days ago when you breathed, or a week ago when you breathed this nice big Costco balloon that was this massive one. Imagine a week later, pick up that balloon. What is that? You still see it's your air, right? And whatever else you're reading that day. It's your air. It's who you are. It's the essence of who you are. That's the neshama. That's a great mashal describing what it is to have a guf and also to have a neshama. We're that balloon. We're that experiment. Where Hashem said, I'm going to breathe that into the essence of this dam. And that's going to be a lab rat, but the most beautiful experiment possible. And that was a nace. Getting the Torah is the roadmap to the completion of that, of mitzvot of 248, 365. Who knows this? For sure you know this? Yeah? We have 248 positive. We have 365 negative mitzvot. How many do we have in total? 613. Why is it 248 and 365? You know this, because you went to Yeshiva. Why is it 248 and 365? We have 240. What's that?
Should I say it?
Go for it.
Okay, so one is Yimot Chama, one of them is the days of the year.
Okay,
one
great.
has to do with the limbs.
Exactly, good. So we have 248 because we have 248 major bones in our body. Kineged the assays, the positive mitzvah that we're supposed to do. Hashem says, I want you to do, right? Do this, do that. 248 corresponding to the major bones of my body. We have 365 negative ones, like what's the name? Ezra said. Oh, to Ezra, cool. But also I'm going to add a different shot. Also, there's 365 major sinews in the physical body. So we have bones and we have major tissue and sinew. We have 365 major sinews in the body corresponding to the negative mitzvah where God says, don't do this. Folks, the half 613 is not just because it's some random number. It's the makeup of who you are. Following this system, living in this way of attaching myself more to my neshama than to my guf, more to my soul than my body, you are spiritualizing everything about who you are. You go into the bathroom, that can be a spiritual experience. You make a bracha, and what's involved? Everything. My esophagus, my throat, my mouth, my teeth, my tongue, right? You're spiritualizing everything about the physical. That is what, by the way, the Greeks, the Yevanim said, we don't have a problem with Ezra. We don't have a problem with the Mishpatim, right? You want to have a religion, you want to have a mitzvah that you observe where there's a reason for it. You Jews want to make it a religion, that's fine. There's religions out there, why not? But you're claiming that there's chukim, you're claiming that there's a system where there's no reason for it, but God says, I want the relationship with you. And that's why you're going to have to do it, because even though there's no answer, but you're still going to do it to show your commitment, because you want that relationship with the divine. That the Greeks have a problem with. And that's the chiddush, that's the beauty, that's the what's the word for chiddush in English? That is the
Novelty.
what? What is it? Say again?
Novelty?
Awesome. The novelty. Are you from London?
No.
Oh, where are you from?
Belgium.
Belgium, nice. That is the novelty of the Jewish people. And this whole experiment, right? It's the chiddush, it's the novelty of being able to live in that way. I want to read you something over here. Now, I can't just say fluff, right? Sounds good. It's pretty good, right? Pretty good so far. I can walk away and go home. Yeah? I can go watch Superstore. I'm just kidding. Yeah? So listen to this. Here's my proof. Here's a raya. Here's a proof. It says the Nefesh HaChaim. Nefesh HaChaim, right? Coming from Volozhin, a big Talmud of the Gra. So this safe, everyone, was like meant to be basically Kabbalah for dummies. Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. Yeah? Like Spark Notes. But it was supposed to be that he brought down Kabbalah for the average person back then to understand. So what does he say here in Shar Aleph Perek Dalet? He says, Ube'emet ki ish, I'm sorry, V'zot Torah Adam, Kol ish Yisrael, every single Jewish person, Al Yomar Belibo, don't say in your heart, which means don't internalize. Whenever you see this in a sefer, in a book that says, don't say in your heart, it means don't internalize. Right? Don't say I can't. Yeah, because you can't. Don't say in your heart, Ki ma'ani, who am I? I'm not capable. But ma kochi, what's my power? I can't rip off that branch. Lifo b'masai hashfolim, to be able to be involved b'olam. However, Yavin v'yeda v'yikva. 3 ways of describing it. He says you have to be Yavin. What's Bina? Bina, there's Chachma, Bina, Dat, welcome to Chabad, yeah. There's wisdom, intellect, which is just like a baby feeling the heat. Then there's Bina. Bina is that he touches the oven, which we let our 2.5-year-old do, and that's why he had a temper tantrum. Yeah, you let him touch the oven. That's one thing about parent. You let him touch the oven, and now he understands that feeling of sensation is hot. Don't touch. And then what that's called Bina, how 2 things are connected. And then V'yikva means to internalize. It becomes part of his subconscious. Right? None of us think to ourselves, oh, I went to a car wash today, right? No one's like, oh, open the window. Let's see what happens if we stick our hands out, right? Or when they say, like, when you're on a roller coaster, like, in Magic Mountain, you have a thing over your body, right? No one's like, oh, what's going to happen if I put my hands out and stand up, right? So V'yikva means to internalize. So he says you have to be Yavin, V'yeda, V'yikva. You have to learn about, internalize, and make it part of your subconscious that what? That kol prate ma'asav, all of a person's, the details of his actions, his life story, what he's doing in his life, the diburav, and his speech, what comes out of his mouth, what he says, umachshevotav, and his thoughts. So speech, thought, right? I'm going to say this as 4 things. Speech, thought, behavior, and action. Kol eitz v'rega, every single moment in time. Lo itavidu chas v'shalom, is not to be lost. And rather, what? He continues and he says, Ube'emet, ki ha'isha chacham v'yavin, a smart person will understand this and internalize it. That what? Where's this 1 second? Ad heichon hema magim lekalkal ulaharos bechekal chas v'shalom. How a person can actually do something to affect the spiritual worlds. He says, Harbe yoter, even more. Mimashe hichriv nebuchadnezzar v'titus. Titus, right? Story goes, Titus took out a sword and he stabbed the Aron Kodesh in the temple. He stabbed it, and apparently it was a miracle, and actually it bled. Hashem actually made it bleed to kind of make him believe that he actually killed God. Right? And Titus, Nebuchadnezzar, right? Powerful people. What they did in the world. Stalin, right? Hillary Maximo, right? So he's saying over here in Chaim, what they did in the world. So even people who are as powerful, he's not saying in terms of death, but he's saying someone who's as powerful as a king, as an empire, they can't even do what you can do in your thought, speech, action, and behavior. Why? Because he says, Ki leiv shel ha'adam, because your heart, the makeup of who you are spiritually, hu klaliot hakol, is included in everything. Based on Kabbalah, we say that that every single day of creation included the ruchniut, included the spirituality of the day before that. So let's say you're in day 2, Nichlal, included in day 2 was day 1, spiritually speaking, right? In terms of the koach, in terms of the focus, the importance of it. Day 6, we're created, it's Tov Ma'od, it's very good. When man's created in day 6, so to speak, we have inside of us, including all of us, is day 5, day 4, day 3, meaning we are the focus, we're the epicenter. Neged HaBeit Kodesh HaKadoshim. Your heart, yes, in these words, right? It's a proof. Your heart, who you are, it's like you're in the Holy of Holies. Even Shesiya, the foundation stone. Yeah, we don't have to try to go up to the BaBayit, right? That's who you are, because you are that Shesiya. Kol Sharshe Mekor HaKadoshot. You included in you, everyone, is all of Kedusha. Including of you is everything that makes you holy, right? And I'll save you the time, but he goes on later and he goes on and he says that when you're able to do, whenever you do a mitzvah, he says you're Mosef Gevura v'Kedusha Lamara. You're Mosef Kedusha and Gevura. A person does a mitzvah and they add holiness and Gevura, whatever this means. This is based on Kabbalah. And a person can add strength to God. Gevura to the Mara, right? Which means that it's this partnership. It's creating a relationship with Hashem that turns us into something that's so significant that we can't lose track of. When Hashem said, I'm going to breathe a piece of me into you, Hashem is saying, now you can do things to affect the spiritual realms that even I can't control. You do a mitzvah, says Derech Hashem, right? The Ramchal says that it's basically a spiral effect. You do a mitzvah and it spirals up to whatever this means, the throne of glory. And then because of that mitzvah, God puts back down. It's a scientific system within spirituality that you're forcing now there to be shefa, according to Kabbalah. You're forcing there now to be abundance that comes back down to the physical world. There's a sefer that you heard about that's called Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam. I'm going to bring it tonight. It's called For Me the World Was Created. And in there he says that the Iker Chisaron, the biggest mistake a person can make, is to not realize this, to not internalize this, to not know that your heart is the Evan Shatiyah, to not know that your heart is included in that of all the Kedusha, that you can be Mosef Gevura Kedusha, that you can add holiness and power to the spiritual realms. He said the Iker Chisaron, the main lack in a person is to not believe that, to have not internalized that. Tzarech Sheyavin, right? V'yeda v'ikva. That your life, who you are, can do way more than any other king or empire, whatever Titus and Nebuchadnezzar did, unfortunately. Blends in with a few more ideas. I think I prepared more than I have a lot of time to. Yeah, you?
Are we taking questions?
Afterwards, yeah? Awesome, thanks. So, let's say the mission bird for now. But, the mitzvah charm. So, what this all culminates down to is basically the following. That all you have to do in your entire life is ask yourself one single question. Yeah? All you got to do in your entire life, whether it be in thought, speech, behavior, and action, career choice, life choices, who to marry, who the spouse should be, right? Where to live, what community to be part of. All of that comes down to one single question. Have a hungry night. Comes down to one single question, which is, I'll tell you after the story. No, but that was good. One second. To answer that, I'll read you a story, okay? This is a book called Emunah with Love and Chicken Soup. Anyone ever saw it or heard of it?
I've seen
You've seen it, yeah? So it's about a lady named Henny Machlis, who passed away 4 or 5 years ago, maybe sooner. She's actually the family is my neighbor. They're a famous family called the Machlis family. You guys went when you were in Bachram? Ezra, did you go?
No.
I can say Ezra, I have 2 Ezras. No? So they have like 120 people in their small little Malo Daphna apartment every single Shabbos. Yeah, they dug to have like privacy. They dug to build like a basement to have their own like private quarters. And when you walk in, there's no furniture. Just imagine it's kind of without any tables. There's no furniture because of how many people they host every single Shabbos. Take 120 people. Yeah. So unfortunately, she passed away. Her name was Henny Machlis. The Machlis family. She passed away. I think he teaches in Hakotel. The Rebbe Machlis. What? Torah. Oh, so you know the Machlis is. You know where Machlis is. Yeah. Yeah. So she was just larger than life. L'malam in Itzeva. She lived this. What I'm telling you right now, this whole shtickle Torah over here, this whole shir, like she lived that. She lived that. She internalized that. I want to tell you this story over here, where it just exemplifies what a person can basically achieve. There's a guy named Eliyahu who would live at the Kotel, and Eliyahu was the kind of person where you know how sometimes you meet someone that's unfortunately homeless or fell in hard times, and they have their cart, and that's their whole life. So he had his 2 chairs. He had his 2 chairs. The one chair he sat on, and the 2 chairs that was his bed where he lived on, right? So one day, Rabbi Machlis came up to him and said, "Why don't you come for Shabbos?" Yeah, the person that no one's speaking to. Rabbi Machlis said, "Why don't you come for Shabbos?" He came for Shabbos, and happened to be that Shabbos that he came to. So Rabbi Machlis and Machlis happened to serve this whole wheat pasta. Okay, this whole wheat pizza. Okay, and Eliyahu fell in love with this whole wheat pizza. Okay. Every time he would come over throughout the week, because he started coming throughout the week more and more often, they say about this time, by the way, guys, this is a parenthetical, that to know how many people were sleeping in their car is based on how many pair of shoes they'd see on the dashboard. Yeah? So Rabbi Machlis would come up to his car in the morning, and if he would see pairs of shoes on his dashboard, he knew that someone was sleeping in his car. And he'd walk to the yeshiva. Because he knew that someone was sleeping there, so he wouldn't want to wake him up, right? These people are the largest one, yeah? So this Eliyahu, with 2 chairs at the Kotel, and that was his world, fell in love with Henny Machlis' whole wheat pizza. For several weeks, she was teaching him about how to make it. Then one night, at 3 a.m., there was a knock on their door. Now they're my neighbors, yeah? I know where they live, yeah? It's like knocking on a door is just kind of random. It's like at 3 in the morning you're knocking on someone's door. Mordecai, the husband, woke up scared. What emergency could this really be? He opened the door and saw Eliyahu standing there. Do you know what time it is, Mordecai said? There's food in the kitchen. You can go help yourself. I don't want food, Eliyahu said. I want her to teach me how to make whole wheat pizza. 3 a.m. I forgot how to do it. Mordecai was exasperated. At 3 in the morning, did you remember to make whole wheat pizza? Eliyahu, go home. This is crazy. It's 3 in the morning. I added that. Yeah. But this time, Henny, the wife, who this book is written about, passed away, was also awake. Mordecai turned to her and said, this guy's insane. I'm going to throw him out of the house. Henny calmed him down. Mordecai, she said, this is a test. It's from Hashem. He's one of Hashem's kids. I don't mind doing it. I'll get up and I'll teach him again how to do it. Mordecai was irate. But Henny, you're indulging him in wrong behavior. Tell him he's wrong. Tell him to get out of here. The idea, Jewish thought frames reality according to 3 elements: time, place, and person. 3 o'clock in the morning, wrong time. Their bedroom door that he knocked on, their front door was always open. So he walked into their house and knocked on their front door, which is off limits apparently. Wrong place. But the raggedy homeless pauper was not the wrong person. He was a holy Jewish soul. And Henny would neither scold him nor turn him away. She turned to Mordecai and said, I don't mind teaching him again. She got dressed, came out, and taught him once more how to make the whole wheat pizza from scratch. 3 in the morning. How'd she do it? How was Henny able to look at people who were so broken, even hostile, and see a divine image in a person? As Ramachla says, her husband, she was a visionary, quote. She looked beyond what was immediately visible. She looked at problematic people, and she would see who they could be, the potential, the neshama, the next step. She was able to see who they really were. That was Henny Machlas. So to summarize, which I haven't answered the question yet, yeah? So now we can answer the question based on the story. The only question that you have to ask yourself, everyone.
What's your potential?
Yeah, close. That's very good. What's your potential? A person has to know they have tremendous potential. But more so, the only question you have to ask yourself in your entire life is the following. In my behavior, speech, thought, and action, am I getting closer to Hashem? Or is something pushing me away? I have a line. If it's pushing you away, you have to be willing to walk away. In behavior, speech, thought, and action right now, life decisions. Am I bringing God into the picture? The reality of myself being in the neshama, really it's more the eyes, right? Myself being in the neshama, the essence of who I am, seeing beyond the physical, knowing that that's what I'm living with, knowing that I can do more than a king or emperor could ever do because I mosed Gevura and Kedusha to the Maram, to Hashem. Well, then in speech, thought, behavior, and action, all you have to do is ask yourself, is what I'm doing right now in my life, is it bringing me closer to that reality? Am I living with that? Or is it pushing me away? That's it. If it's pushing you away, you have to be willing to walk away. If it's an unhealthy relationship, right? It can be difficult, but sometimes you have to walk away, right? Is what I'm doing right now, the decision I'm going to make in my life, is it going to be something that's going to bring me to realize that I'm living in this way? I'm living domel ekono, as the Talmud Torah said. I'm living in a way where I'm not going to say I can't, but my only option is I could. I, so to speak, burn those bridges in my mind of that it's not possible, but I can achieve that, right? Imagine how uplifting that is, how free you'll feel, knowing that you're living with that. That's the yesod, that's the foundation of why Hashem said, I'm willing to create this experiment. Because I want that to happen. I want to have a gof and neshama where, you know what, there's going to be failures, and it's going to be difficult. And yeah, the malachim, malachim, sorry, but they are going to mess up. They're busted with dumb. They're human, they're going to mess up. But it's worth it for me to create a world where they can affect the spiritual realm. Because let's see what they can accomplish. I want them to be domed to me. I want them to be a tzelem Elohim. I want them to be a picture of who I am. Imagine right now if I take a picture of this room. What would I see? I'd see all the details of what you were wearing. If anyone was like cold, yeah. I'd see like your hand like this, right? I'd see like, Ezra's has his hand, right? I'd see like, Ezra's chilling over here, on the chair, and I was like, that swivel chair, do a little swivel, yeah? I'd capture the moment right now. Hashem said, you are Tzelem Elohim. You are the image of who I am. You're the picture imagine seeing a picture right now. Imagine guys in the corner of the room. Snap, right? Or more like this, yeah. Snap, right? Yeah. It's the essence, the details of everything that Hashem is. Hashem said, I'm putting that to who you are. I'm putting that to who you are. We're going to end with one last story, okay? One last story. There's a person by the name of Elazar ben Dordoy. Yeah? Yeah? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Elazar ben Dordoy. He was a person that, story goes, in the Gemara, that he had been with basically every prostitute possible in the physical world. One last prostitute that he wanted to be with across the sea. Sold all of his assets, sold his company to be able to get to this woman. Gets there, and she says to him, as he's approaching, what's your name? And he says, oh, okay, hi. What's my name? My name's Elazar ben Dordoy. And she says, are you Elazar ben Dordoy? I heard a Vasco. I heard a heavenly voice declare, Elazar ben Dordoy, ein lo chelek l'olam haba. You will never have a portion in the world to come. He hears this, Elazar ben Dordoy, and he breaks down crying. Sold all of his assets, his company, liquidated his funds, right, everything, to get to her, and he hears her say, and this is like the pinnacle of his life, right, which is just, he dropped so low, he came so low, and he hears her say, oh, I heard a gospel, heavenly voice say, you'll never have a chelek l'olam haba. Breaks down crying. He cries and cries and cries to a point where the Gemara says that his neshama left his body. He had passed away. And a bas kol comes out, a heavenly voice comes out and says, Elazar ben Dordoy, yesh lo chelek in olam haba. He will have a portion in olam haba. Rabbi Akiva, here's the story, and can't understand it. A person's so low, and because at the last moment of his life, he had charata, he had regret, and he cried and cried to a point where he actually died. And he has a chelik in olam haba. Rabbi Akiva was bothered by that. And then Rabbi Akiva had what's called yishuv hadat. He was then okay with it, because he realized the following, that a person can be kona olamo b'sha'at. We never know when that moment is where we're going to have to bring out who we are as a neshama, right? Stand firm for what we believe in and so forth, right? And here was Elazar ben Dordoy, who, even though he dropped so low, but realized the last moment of his life, really who he was as a person, this neshama, this unique person. I'm not going to have a chelik in olam haba. And he breaks down crying, he does a full tshuva, because he understands that, what did I come to? Rabbi Akiva realized, even then, in that moment, wow, a person can be kona olam b'sha'achat. A person can acquire his world, even in that moment. So, to summarize, for us to realize, like Hamimachda saw in people, like Elazar ben Dordoy in that story, like my father-in-law, the story earlier about this person that said it right, my father-in-law with the nails and the feathers, you're going to hear that probably third or fourth time, yeah, right? This boy who was 80 pounds rips something out of a tree, right, a branch to be able to break through ice, which is basically impossible almost, and pulls out a man who's 200 pounds to save him. Because there was no voice saying that I can't. So for us to understand that if we live and internalize and understand that we're a neshama, and we have something that's divine inside of us, we have something that can affect the marrow, the heights. We do a single mitzvah and we spiritualize who we are as people. Right? When you daven, actually we did a Rav Volby. He said I should do this. He said touch your vocal cords, right? When you daven, when you say something nice to someone. So when you feel it vibrating, right? So I think it was the Rashba, or the Rashba was one of the famous commentaries. He said that when you speak tefillah, there's a halacha, you're supposed to speak Torah. Don't just think Torah, speak Torah. He says because when you speak, your whole body is actually vibrating. Not just your vocal cords, but there's some sort of element of the whole body being involved, right? Like you can feel it in your stomach, right? So to realize that speaking, tefillah, mitzvah, right? When you smile at somebody, yeah, you're doing a mitzvah. Little things that you can even do can change the marrow. Mosef Kavura and Kedusha to the marrow. And there's no word in the Jewish vocabulary for I can't. That's the Yitzhar. The Yitzhar tells you that you can't. But the Neshama, which is the Ikar of who I am, the central focus, the epicenter of reality, that only says I can. Thank you, Ray. Thanks so much.
Thank you.